All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. This video more or less pertains to any vehicle. It's a regular maintenance thing. So spark plugs. I met a handful of people that's usually nervous to do spark plugs, don't want nothing to do with it. They think it's hard. You need to be certified to do so. Now there is mistakes that you can cause, but at the same time, it's kind of simple to do. So I'll walk you through the steps on doing your spark plugs. Ever down a little bit on performance or anything, feel it's not as peppy, as idling a little rough, you can go ahead and change the spark plugs. It's relatively cheap, plus you gotta think, they're firing every single time that piston comes up. So if you know anything about motors and how they function, you know that's quite a bit of times it's sparking. So it's only, a matter of time before they end up going bad or fouling out. Plus if you got bad O2 sensors, so on and so forth. But as far as changing the spark plugs go, relatively simple, and I'll walk you through it. I got 8 on this one, so stay tuned. Okay, so for those of you that don't know or might be just starting to do the whole maintenance thing on your vehicle, all vehicles and all motors are all going to kind of look different but somewhat be the same. So for this particular one that we're looking at, these are the coil packs. Okay, I have a V8, meaning there's 8 of these in total. So there's 4 on this side, there's 4 on the other side, right on top. So I got to remove these coil packs to get to the spark plugs that's inside. Okay, I'll show all that. For those that already know this, just go ahead and skip through if you want or be refreshed. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get access to these and then get access to the 4 on the other side. So I find it easier just to go ahead and do a couple extra steps just so you're not struggling for room. So that being said, we're going to take off this air box. Okay, for starters, for the air box, we're going to have this vent tube. I'm going to pull that off. I have one clip down here. It should be somewhat loose. We're going to loosen up this hose clamp, 8mm. Okay. You got that loose, it should just come off. Just like that. Next, you're going to want to unplug this. This is your mass airflow sensor. Go ahead and set that off to the side. You're going to have 2 bolts, 10mm, one on each side down at the bottom. You'll see them, it's just like a little bracket that comes off of that. Next, right on the back here is going to be a throttle body. You'll see what that looks like. All cars have them. This is the air box. It's different. They can all vary on different cars, but there's going to be another hose clamp with an 8mm right on the back. Once you loosen that hose clamp, it should be relatively easy to take off. Just like that. Okay. Okay, hopefully this is a good angle. I should be able to get all 8 of them in one shot, so I'll just time lapse through it. I'm going to explain how to do it on the first one, and then it's the repeated steps on all 7. Then when I go to reassemble, I'll explain that. But as far as disassembly goes, I'll explain the first one and then go through and do the rest. Okay, for starters, locate all your main bolts. So there's going to be one on top of each one. So I'm going to go ahead and just go squirt just a little bit of penetrant. If you use WD-40, liquid wrench, whatever, don't go crazy because you don't want all this stuff all over the place, but just put it right on the threads and it'll work its way down. Once come off relatively simple, painless. You're gonna wanna take maybe a couple minutes and let that sit and do its thing. All right, I'm back. They sat for about 5 minutes. Give it time for the penetrant to do its work. This will be the one I'm worked on, and then I'll do the rest in the time lapse. Okay, first thing, we're gonna go ahead and pull off this little pigtail, this clip. ahead and pull it off. I like to do these one at a time. That way you don't mix up which one goes to which coil pack. It'll throw off your firing pattern. I've done it in the past with different harnesses. Just do one at a time. Next, we'll take off that nut. For this particular vehicle, it's a 10 millimeter. It's a 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Again, it might be the same, it might be different for all different makes and models. Once you extract the nut, take off the clip. Should just be, give it some wiggles and turns, and it comes out. Right, here's your coil pack. This is also responsible for igniting the spark plug. So if you're also having misfires, multiple misfires, stuff like that, usually it'll tell you what cylinder it's at, and then you can trace down and find out which coil pack, or you can replace them all. It's usually cheaper to buy them all as a set. All right, don't mind the dirty engine bay. Right inside there, that's your spark plug. For this particular vehicle, that spark plug, it's a 16 millimeter. I know they make different spark plug sockets and stuff you can get down at relatively cheap at Harbor Freight, anywhere you want to get tools. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. No question is a dumb question to me. I rather people ask any question they have, and then I give them the answer, no matter how silly the question may be. I've been there, we all have. So lefty loosey, righty tighty in order to extract it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and go down here. You might need a series of extensions to get down into it. Okay, make sure you're on it. Shouldn't be that tight. I'll explain that as we go to install it. Keep unscrewing it. You'll feel when it's all the way unscrewed. Now there is sockets in there that have like a rubber thing in here to help pull the spark plug out. I don't have that. So as an alternative, I just use this telescoping magnet. Reach down in there and pull it right out, okay? There's a bunch of different spark plugs you can go with. To me, not really any personal preference. I do like the iridium though, if I did have to choose. Just kind of a newer thing to the spark plugs. You can get platinum, you can get all different types. Just go ahead and choose what you want. If it's a regular maintenance item, so you should be doing this probably once a year anyway. So we'll go ahead and get one of these. This is a pack of 4. They usually come in packs of 4. So we'll go ahead and pull one out. All right, here's the new one. Some people put anti-seize on the threads before they install it. I don't necessarily do that. I don't see too much of a need for it. This will be your gasket. This little looks like a washer that's around here. That's going to basically smush, compress in there. You'll feel it as you tighten it. So we'll go ahead and put it down into the cylinder head ever so gently. Same thing, I'll just put it on my magnet. Try not to bang it around too much. Get it in there and screw it in a little bit. Once a thread just barely gets started, it'll hold it down in there. Okay, next, like I said, righty tighty. So you're just gonna want to turn it lightly. You shouldn't have to force it in. If you're forcing it in and you're immediately fighting it, trying to have to really crank down on it, you're cross-threading it. That can be a big issue. So that's probably the thing that scares people the most, wanting to damage their car and stuff. That can happen. Do not use an impact, okay? Some people will. Some people's used to it. Just take your time and use a ratchet. So once it's in there, you'll feel it tighten up by hand. Okay, you'll feel it get tight, and then just go a little bit. You don't have to go crazy. Remember how it was when it came out, relatively easy to turn. Same thing, when you go in there, you're just gonna want to apply just a little bit of pressure, okay? Because all you're doing is crimping that little washer. You don't have to crank down on it real tight. Some of them, you can look up the torque specs if it really bothers you that much. And honestly, that's really all there is to it. Now we're gonna put the coil pack right back on. Make sure it's lined up. This is where the spark plug's going in. You gotta make sure it makes contact with it. Give it some wiggles. Make sure it's pressed down up in there. Reapply your nut. Sure, this one I'll do an impact, but don't go crazy on it. Just a couple of Gadugas. Then clip back on your pigtail. That's it. One spark plug down. I like to kind of clean the tops up a little bit so I know what one I did. You can number it, you can just remember it. So now I'm going to go down the line and then back up on the other side. This will be the time-lapse part. It's the same process with the other 7. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to show you, but these are some things that you might come across. So right where I have my socket, that's the last bolt that holds on the coil pack. So you can see that they utilize that bolt for this bracket, okay, for a wire harness. So, and some of these might be harder to get to. So this is probably some of the complications you might come across, but nothing to it. Just patience and finding out what tool works for you. So instead of using that impact, I went ahead and made it a little shorter, got my ratchet in there so I can get to it. Same steps apply. This has a red tab on it. You'll push that red tab right here, you'll push that out, and then you'll be able to separate the plug. So if I have to, I'll do that. But I think if I pull off that and then, you know, put the whole bracket off to the side, I'll still probably be able to get to it. Problem is this wire harness, it's got to come in from somewhere. So it's coming in right there, right over that coil pack. All right, I'm gonna have to do what I said that I was gonna have to do. So right here's that bracket. I got it off there. The bracket's still attached. Let me see if I can get some more light in there. Okay, the bracket's still attached. Right back here, that's where I had to get the nut off, right there. So in order to make it easier, you gotta pull that red tab out. And just like that. Okay, just like that. Then you'll be able to push this in and separate the two. Just get my hands in there is the tricky part. Just like that. Okay, that's what I pushed down. And then once you plug it back in, you push this red thing back in. What that is a lock, so it doesn't come back out. So kind of move that off to the side. Don't forget that you took it apart because you're going to put it back together. Okay, just kind of get it off to the side. And then right underneath this harness is that plug. Again, some of these more difficult than others. But usually you only have one difficult one to deal with. This one just happens to be the one. I have to get in there with what I can to push it. That little tab part on top. Just like that, there we go. So there's that last pigtail. Now, you gotta try and pull that coil pack up, angle it, move it around so we can get it out. Just like that, there we go. Find out how you're gonna feed it in there. There we go, that works. Make sure I'm on the spark plug, okay? So I'm right underneath this wire harness. I should have enough to get my ratchet in there. And then turn ever so slightly. Won't have a lot of turning. See, I got this bracket right here. All right, that's all 8. All right, that's it. So now we reverse the steps that we took to get to the spot. Go ahead and go back over your work, reassure yourself. I'm sure, again, I wiped off all the tops of the ones I did, so that I count 8. All the nuts are on top, they're all plugged in, so on and so forth. Pretty solid. So now we go ahead and put the air box back on. Again, for this particular model, we got the one hose clamp on the back, that's an 8mm, and then the two side bolts, those are 10mm. Don't forget to plug in your mass airflow sensor. That'll also cause running issues. If you need to replace your air filter, now's the time. It's right in here. You can look up your year, make, model, find out what one you need. Again, make sure that goes all the way around. Make sure there's no leaks or nothing. Make sure if you have any hoses, you plug them back in where they should be. That'll also cause a running issue. Eight millimeters. Make sure that's tight so there's no air leaks. That's the job. All right, once you completed everything, everything's back. Again, to reassure your work, make sure everything's tight where it should be. Time to start it up. All right, and there it is. I shouldn't have to explain. I know I didn't open the garage door. I only had it running for, less than a minute. Make sure it starts up just fine. It idled great. Honestly, it idled better than it has in a long time. If you see my past video, I also replaced the throttle positioning sensor. That shouldn't be far after this video. You go ahead and see that if you want to watch that. But as far as replacing your spark plugs, again, it should be a once a year thing. Regular maintenance. It's not really that hard. Each make and model vehicle, you're gonna have your own little routes and complications, like that little last one in the far back corner by the wire harness. But you just kind of get your tools, you find out what works for you, get the job done. Relatively simple. Again, you want to do this when the motor is cold. Sure, maybe a little bit warm, but definitely if you was driving and stuff like that, make sure you just let it sit for about an hour or so before you perform the task. You don't want to have that stuff too hot and strip the threads out and stuff like that. But as far as doing the job, real easy. It's not that bad. So I encourage everybody to do it. You don't need to take it in somewhere and spend X amount of money. For these particular spark plugs, they were $10 a piece. So having 8, just under $100. If you go through, AutoZone, Advance Auto, you sign up for their perks awards, stuff like that. I got a $10 coupon from the previous ones, or you can combine them, save money however you want to, order the spark plugs offline. So I hope this encouraged some people to kind of do the stuff on their own, kind of DIY, nothing to it. Any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them down below. I'll do everything I can to answer them. I love feedback. If there's anything, any tips and stuff like that you guys had for me that would help me or the community watching, that'd be greatly appreciated. So, till next time, thanks for watching.